in one county staff, but there's not as much state staff, we can backfill with other counties and health officers support each other. I'm concerned in the future, if we don't transition plan, we're getting some challenges where we're not going to be able to meet everybody's needs, and that's going to impact citizens in Northeast Wisconsin. So just one. That means I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for the very great job of your staff as well, along with Board of Health under the direction of Supervisor Metzger as the chair of the Board of Health. We look forward to the challenges that see you in 5 years. Great, thank you. Next up, we have County Public Works Director Jerry Neuser and Corporation Counsel Peter Conrad is going to report on the Master Solid Waste Agreement with Waste Management Incorporated. So, Jerry, I think that makes
We're hot here.
Okay, thank you. Well, one of the 5 divisions of the Public Works Department is solid waste and recycling. This division manages about $2.6 million a year in its budget, and about half that total run through the Master Solid Waste Contract. Tonight's presentation will focus on the solid waste disposal portion of the division, specifically the Master Solid Waste Agreement we negotiate and manage on behalf of all the county's municipalities. Since we're in the process of renewing that solid waste master agreement right now, the county executive and county board chairman thought it a good time to present to the entire county board on this service that we provide for all of our county's residents. So what is the solid waste master agreement? This agreement is between Manitowoc County and Waste Management Incorporated. It requires the county to direct solid waste from the county's municipalities to the Ridgeview landfill in exchange for a substantially reduced tipping fee at the landfill. Waste Management offers this tipping fee reduction in exchange for the county acting as the central billing agent. The landfill bills the county, and then the county, excuse me, and the county then bills the municipalities or the haulers. The county is basically a guarantor of that contract and payment to Waste Management. The county's main purpose in this is to act as a pass-through for the funds. Besides some staff time to handle the bill processing, there's no tax levy subsidy to accomplish this task. So why do we have the master agreement? The goals of the agreement are really twofold. First is through the coordinated agreements that we have with the county's municipalities, it directs recyclables to our recycling center to ensure our center's viability. It also offers the county residents throughout Manitowoc County a substantially reduced tipping fee at the landfill. On your desks is this chart because it's kind of hard to see. We noticed when we were getting the presentation together. But as you'll see in the table, in 2018, we saved the residents of the county's municipalities just over $739,000 in tipping fees versus the standard gate rate that is charged at the landfill. And we did that by negotiating and managing this solid waste master agreement. So if you extrapolate that $739,000 over 20 years, you can see it's a large amount of money we've saved the county residents, upwards of $15 million. So a little history on the Master Solid Waste Agreement. The current agreement that we have in place was signed in 1999. There have been 2 extensions since that time, and we're coming up on the sunset of the agreement, the master agreement, on April 30th of this year. There are no more extensions, so we had to negotiate a new agreement. The master agreement is coordinated with solid waste and recycling agreements with all of the county's municipalities. The agreement has been very successful for both Manitowoc County's municipalities and Waste Management. We see the success is measured in the amount of money saved in tipping fees, as well as in the amount of recyclables processed by our recycling center. Those are items that never made it to the landfill, so they were never included in either tipping fees charged or in tipping fees saved. Right now, we process about 4,000 tons of recyclables and another 4,000 cubic yards of compost every year. All these are materials that are diverted from the landfill, which will extend the life of Ridgeview landfill, which is another success. So the status of the master solid waste agreement. Right now, we are finalizing the successor agreement with Waste Management. The new agreement has almost no change from the original agreement that we signed in 1999. Two changes we are going to see in it, though, are some new indemnification language, which will be new for the municipalities, which are partners in our sister agreements. And also, there's some new fiber sale language where we sell our processed fiber from the recycling center to Waste Management. We started this process with Waste Management back in December of 2017, so it's been a long negotiation to get to this point. And I'd like to thank you as a county board and the county executive for supporting recycling all these years and supporting the master solid waste agreement for all the citizens of the county. I'd also like to thank at this time our recycling center manager, who couldn't be here tonight, John Reisenbeekler, and our corporation counsel, Peter Conrad, for all the time they took in the last year to get us to this point in the negotiations. The future of the master solid waste agreement, the new agreement will be for 5 years with the option for up to 2-year extensions. This will be coordinated with the solid waste and recycling agreements with the municipalities. And we are having a meeting with all the municipalities next week, Thursday night, March 28th, to educate them on the new agreement. And all these new agreements have to be signed by May 1st of this year. So with that, Peter, who has been a partner in the negotiations from the beginning, or I can answer any questions anybody may have on it.
I could try to squeal. No. Could you expand the indemnification language a little bit? Because I remember in the last meeting, the indemnification is primarily for waste management, not necessarily our best interest. Is that correct, or is that changed?
Actually, what we did is, under the current agreement, the current solid waste master agreement indemnifies both Manitowoc County as well as the municipality in case there's any claims that could possibly arise under the landfill. Under the proposed indemnification language, that would be just exclusively Manitowoc County, so the municipality would no longer enjoy the same indemnification from waste management. They would, of course, have their government claims immunity, but the indemnification from waste management itself would not be included. Waste management's rationale behind that is as a disposer in the landfill, you need to share some risk with us.
Thank you.
Any other? I'm going to try it myself once again.
So far, so good. So yes, no squealing. I will leave mine on then. So are there any other questions? Supervisor Vogel?
Sure. Jerry, that meeting that you mentioned next week, on March 28th with the towns and municipalities, where's that going to be held and what time?
It's going to be at the Communications and Technology Building at 6:30 p.m., I believe, in room 111, 112. I'll follow up with you, Supervisor Vogel, just to confirm that.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogel. Any other questions for Jerry or Peter? I know you're having the meeting next week, but have you been talking, I guess, recently, this is a big change, I guess, to the municipalities in regards to that indemnification. That's a huge thing. And I understand the logic from waste management standpoint, but I think the municipalities are going to be in for a rude awakening when we talk about that.
Well, and potentially correct. At the end of the day, we are acting as a facilitator in this
Correct.
agreement. So as far as whether a municipality wants to avail itself of the preferred rate, that is going to continue to be completely within the municipality's discretion. But that's as far as we could get with waste management, quite frankly. Quite frankly, Waste Management did not want to indemnify Manitowoc County, and I put that down as a line in the sand that we could not cross. Because again, at the end of the day, we are essentially negotiating this agreement and put in a significant amount of effort in order to benefit the municipalities at no cost to the municipalities, and we're happy to do that. But it is for promoting solid waste disposal at a cost-effective rate, but Manitowoc County itself is getting no direct benefit by entering into this agreement one way or the other. Again, we're trying to help facilitate solid waste disposal in the most cost-effective way for the county, and we'll continue to pursue that. But you're right as far as the indemnification goes, and if a municipality does not want to enter into that, that's certainly understandable. What I will say is they're going to end up having to dispose of their waste in any regard, and they're not going to get indemnification by disposing of it at any landfill at any time in any way, any different than if you, me, or anybody drives a certain amount of solid waste to a landfill. You're going to be on the hook if there's something in there that shouldn't be in there.
Fair enough, and thank you, and I wholeheartedly agree with the line in the sand when we were talking about it, and Jerry informed us at Public Works last week, that I agree that we're doing a great service for the municipalities, but I agree, we should have been totally 100% identification, and that's what we are, and that's what's going to work here. So, any other questions for Jerry or Peter at this time? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that report. Next up, I guess a sad thing in a sense, I have the resignation letter of County Treasurer Nancy Saueressig effective May 10th of 2019. I sent that resignation letter out by email last week. Nancy is here tonight. She would like to address the board, and we certainly welcome her to address the board. I'm glad we have volume now. So Nancy, the mic is all yours.
I might not want to hear my words. Thank you, Chairman Fry and County Board Supervisors and County Executive Bob Zibelbauer. It was truly an honor to serve Manitowoc County and its citizens through the Treasurer's Office for the past 3 years as Treasurer and the past 7 years as the Deputy Treasurer. I thoroughly enjoyed every aspect and every procedure in that office. It was truly wonderful, and they're just truly wonderful people to work with also. Greg and I, my husband Greg and I, have had the very fortunate opportunity of all the retirement pieces of the retirement puzzle fall into our lap. We didn't have to bang our heads against the wall or be frustrated about trying to make things work. Everything just truly fell into our lap. So we're taking advantage of it. And the first thing we're going to do is move back to the western side of the state where we both hail from, and that would be Pierce County, Wisconsin. It borders Minnesota. So we will be doing that, and then we're so super excited that we will have flexible schedules to be at the beck and call of our 3 children, grown adult children and their families, and the grandchildren. We are going to have another 5th one on the way, so it couldn't have been better timing. So we are just super excited about it, and I thank everybody truly. It's really been an awesome pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, Nancy, as well. I mean, I guess I first met you when you were then in the county clerk's office, and you got, in a sense, went to the other side. Not that there's an invisible wall there as well, but great job. Thank you so much. We wish you nothing but the best. And as I mentioned, I'm hoping you can return next month for a little proclamation. So thank you very much. The executive committee did meet on a replacement, and we'll be talking about that when it comes up on our executive committee. All right, next up, public comments. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to Manitowoc County government, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes to come up to the podium and speak. Just give your name and address. Is there anybody wishing to speak this evening? Yes, we'll start with Maura.
Chip Yost, Centerville. I'd like to remind you that there's an election in 2
What?
weeks.
Wait, hold on. Mom. Yeah, yes, Supervisor Zimmer.
Ms. Yost ought to be required to give her complete
I guess I'm going to defer to myself as chair. I guess I've accepted that. I guess I'll defer to Corp Counsel as well. Do you think that's necessary?
Our rules do call for an individual to provide their name and address, so I think in this particular instance, Ms. Yost certainly can provide her name and address. We are all familiar, so I think there's a certain familiarity, but for formalities, if you would introduce yourself as well.
Okay, thank you.
Question for the chair.
Yes, Maura.
Just a moment, please. I'm trying to figure this out. Mr. Chair, yes,
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's right.
We can accommodate that. Centerville is adequate.
Yes, I guess in talking with Corp Counsel again, once again, there is a potential safety concern, so I will allow to using the address of Centerville in regard to this case.
Thank you. I'd like to remind you that there's an election in 2 weeks on Tuesday, April 2nd. I'm happy to report. Local voter participation has been creeping up. Manitowoc County's voter participation rate during last November's election was 56%. Manitowoc, Rapids, Liberty, and Schleswig all top the list at 70% or better. At My Vote Wisconsin, you can register to vote or check your voter registration, find your polling place, see what's on your upcoming ballot, and more. I have 2 reports for the record. Due to a particular county board supervisor's repeatedly critical, belligerent manner towards me, worthy neither of a gentleman nor an officer, I have shared my concerns for my safety with the sheriff. As a matter of record, I asked County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer and staff to include me in any correspondence to the county board referencing me or my work. It is my sincere hope that he complies with my request in the spirit of accountability, respect, and customer service, as the logo on his letterhead reads. As you know, I wrote about the county's financial, quote, stressors, that is, indicators of our county's financial stress. County Executive Ziegelbauer recently distributed to the Finance Committee a report with the first line stating, quote, file tonight's report under the heading Manitowoc County is in strong financial shape. The report describes the employees' health insurance fund as having a surplus of $347,801. Item number 6 of Bob's 2018 budget transmittal letter for the 2019 budget reads in part, quote, we also added several voluntary benefit programs at the employees' cost and increased the cost of our employees by 2% of the premiums, and are using
Maura, you have about 1 minute yet.
thank you, are using $383,388 from the health insurance reserve to reduce the tax levy. So I suggest to you that this is actually another indicator of our county's ongoing financial stress. I advocate for a half-penny sales tax to reduce the pattern of borrowing, sending millions of tax dollars out of the county while indebting current and future taxpayers for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Maura. If there's anybody else wishing to speak to the county board this evening, Anyone else wishing to speak? And for a third, yes, Supervisor Holzbach.
I think as a county board and this body in particular, we should encourage public input. And there's been several times when a supervisor has challenged in what I'd call a hostile way, someone giving input. I don't know what the rules are within the process, but I do know that I've been a part of many of these meetings and a lot of different local, state, and federal committee meetings. And the tone and the tenor of the challenge for someone giving public input, I think is uncalled for. And for anyone from the public who comes and is thinking about giving public input, I think what we want to do is encourage it. And I think the kind of behavior of the supervisor doesn't encourage public input. It's harmful to the process. And regardless of the content of the correction, I think we all have an understanding of the impetus and the motivation for continually challenging someone giving public input. Thanks.
Thank you. And in talking with Peter in between as well, we looked up the rule again. The chair, I guess, in this case of the board, and it also applies to committee meetings under our rules, may request the address of the person who is speaking. So it's not something that, as I first mentioned, is up to the discretion of the chair. So I guess it's definitely in this case, it's up to my discretion, and I think Centerville is more than appropriate, I guess, in regards to the address. So. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Anyone else wishing to speak? And for a third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll declare public comment closed. Communications are shown on the agenda. There is no unfinished business from our last meeting. We do have some appointments by the county executive, and we'll start with the Board of Health. To appoint 3 members to succeed Shirley Fessler, Dr. Brian Konowalchuk, sorry if you're watching, doctor, I hope I got it close, and Shannon Wanek for a 2-year term expiring April of 2021. And the recommendations are Shirley Fessler, Dr. Brian Konowalchuk, and Shannon Wanek. So motion by Supervisor Vogel, seconded by Supervisor Metzger to approve those nominations, appointees. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Next up for the Human Services Board to appoint 2 members to succeed Lori Burke and Jack Nasep for a 3-year term expiring April of 2022. The recommendation is for Jack Nasep and Lori Burke. Motion by Supervisor Henriksen, second by Supervisor Falkowski to approve those appointments. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Next up, Land Conservation Committee to appoint 1 member to succeed Terry Wilford, Farm Service Agency Representative, and recommended by Supervisor Wagner, second by Supervisor Gauger. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Leicester Public Library Board of Trustees to appoint 1 member to succeed Supervisor Rick Henriksen for a term expiring April 30th of 2022. And the recommendation is for Supervisor Henriksen. So motion by Supervisor Falkowski, second by Supervisor Swade. Discussion on the motion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Manitowoc Public Library Board of Trustees to appoint 1 member to succeed Supervisor Todd Holschbach for a 3-year term expiring April 30th of 2022 as well. And the recommendation is for Supervisor Todd Holschbach. Motion by Supervisor Metzger, second by Supervisor Kavanaugh. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. And last but not least, for the Transportation Coordinating Committee to appoint 2 members to succeed Tammy Destin and Shirley Fessler for a 3-year term expiring April of 2022. And the recommendations are Tammy Destin and Shirley Fessler. So motion by Supervisor Holschbach, second by Supervisor Ballman to approve those appointments. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried, and those are approved as well. Thank you very much. We will jump right into committee reports, starting with Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
26th in Kiwanee County. The first meeting is the Commission on Aging at 10 o'clock and followed by the ADRC of the Lakeshore at 10:45. That is the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Board of Health, Supervisor Metzger is the chair.
March 14th, the health officer report, there were more immunization waivers signed in 2018 than any previous years, and the trend continues upward. The 2-year-old immunization rate is 80%, and our goal is 90%. Our teens rates have been declining since we are not able to implement school mass vaccination clinics. The Health of Manitowoc, as you were aware, we got the award. I would also like to thank the coalitions that helped. I know Colleen Holmes, she's the new director for Lakeshore CAP, and I know she's very much involved with that. And there's a Facebook page that everybody's encouraged to view. And as you know, we got the award from the chamber, so that is very, we're very happy about that. We've seen increase in hospitalization for the influenza this past week, and we are encouraging more people to get the flu shots that didn't get them. The WIC report, the initial caseload for February is 994 participants and 564 families. And then I also would like to congratulate the health department for that 140 review. That's the 5-year that they also got the award for. Compliment Mary and Jessica, Amy Wergen that had retired, all the employees and all the retired employees that from this last 5 years, and the entire Board of Health. I'd like to thank those members as well. And our next meeting will be April 11th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Metzger? Yes, Supervisor Mink.
Cannot stress enough, get your vaccinations. That's not a joke. Get your vaccination. Do not listen to Facebook. Do not listen to the internet. Talk to a doctor. Get your vaccinations. A very strong proponent of that. Just wanted to add that too, Rita.
Thank you.
You're doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Mink. Any other questions or comments for Supervisor Metzger? Thank you very much. The Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Mink will be giving the report this evening, if I understand correctly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, fellow supervisors. The meeting of the Manitowoc County Criminal Justice Committee on 06 March 2019 was fairly short at a mere 6 minutes. We discussed drug court and the pretrial services committee. For drug court, Mr. Mucci reported on the numbers which remain as previously reported to the executive committee on February 18th. 2 admissions are pending with another graduation which took place on March 13th. The State Drug Court Conference will again take place in Wisconsin Dells, May 8th to the 10th. Majority of the team will be in attendance. One of the Manitowoc County graduates will be a speaker at the program division, and also 3 more have graduated the program. I'd like to add to that. Sorry about that. I'd like to add to that. I take a little bit of a personal view with the drug course. My sister is now 2 years sober. She had battled addiction for a better part of her entire adult life. She accredits it to both private and public help from the state and from private organizations. Currently, I mean, her life is completely turned around, and it's outstanding. So I just want to say, and as for the person that's pending graduation, I know Misty very well. I've known her for years. A lot of these people are friends of mine, and they got involved, and then drug court is doing good things, I think, on that. Continuing on, Chair LeBray reported to Attorney Ann Larson's absence regarding the pretrial service committee. Committee is working to determine the real cost for out-of-county housing to see if that cost would offset program cost of $60,000. Justice Point has indicated this is the cost of an employee to provide services. The next date will be 01 May 2019. Thank you. That is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Mink? And thank you for being the alternate, I guess, on Supervisor Falkowski can't make it. Supervisor Williams, you have a question?
No, not a question.
Or comment.
Just wanted
Yes,
to
sir.
add to Supervisor Mink's. He wanted to give a shout out to Manitowoc Coffee, who has decided to go alcohol free, I guess from now on. And they're very involved with these, giving work to drug court graduates. And so I just wanted that to, eventually, I mentioned it at the city council last night too, and eventually it might get someplace where people besides those of us in this building would hear about it. But yeah, very strong, Terry and Pete, great proponents of what's going on in the city. And like I said, they are going alcohol-free in their business.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Supervisor Williams. Any other questions or comments for Supervisor Mink? All right, thank you very much. Executive Committee, I have two things. I have an ordinance tonight, I guess amending chapters 1 and chapters 2. We met as an executive committee to discuss that a month and a half ago, and we finalized it last Thursday. So I will accept a motion by Supervisor Benke, seconded by Supervisor Droll to approve the ordinance. Discussion on the motion. A lot of it's housekeeping. I guess, Peter, if you just want to go through quickly, I guess the quick ones, I guess.
Yeah.
Or if anybody has any more pointing questions, everybody got a copy of this.
It looks like a significant amount of changes to our ordinance. So this deals with our county structure in terms of departments, department functions, and exactly what our departments do. As I said, it looks like a significant amount of changes. Quite frankly, it's not. It's mostly almost exclusively housekeeping. The big change that I would point out probably relates to emergency services. It is eliminating as departments the Joint Dispatch Center and emergency management, and it's calling that what it is, which is a department, and it's identifying those duties. That's probably the most significant quote-unquote change, but again, it just brings that department up to where it currently is. Everything else, like I said, while it looks like a lot of strikeout and a lot of underline, really it's just kind of restructuring things to be more contemporary with where the county currently is at. You will note that there may be a committee or a commission or a couple of committees and commissions that are in fact being removed from the ordinance. That's quite frankly because those committees and commissions haven't existed for quite a long time, or at least haven't met for a long time, to the point where I had several department directors ask me, how is this committee, or where is this committee? When was it formed? What does it do? So when we got to that stage and nobody had met in the last 5-10 years, it was just elected to eliminate those two. And there is one name change on a committee, but other than that, like I said, this is more of a housekeeping ordinance than anything.
Okay. Thank you very much, Peter. Any questions for myself or any other discussion, or Peter for that matter, or comments or discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on ordinance amending Manitowoc County Code, Chapter 1, County Organization, and Chapter 2, County Departments and Agencies.
Supervisor Williams? One last try. There we go. Ordinance passes 23-0. Thank you very much on that. Next up, I have, I guess, the other half of the portion we were discussing before, a resolution appointing Amy Koshin to fill the unexpired term of the current county treasurer. The executive committee met with this. I can discuss when we go into the resolution, and we passed it unanimously to appoint Amy as the county treasurer for the remainder of the term. So I'd like to make a motion. Motion by Supervisor Falkowski, seconded by Supervisor Wagner. Discussion on the motion. I guess first of all, I'll start out, one of my guiding principles, I guess, in appointing somebody is the term. And in this case, it's a 4-year term. I'm certainly not attacking Amy's abilities because she's certainly well qualified. But if this would have been in the first part of the term, the first half or even closer to the first year, I guess I would have advocated for a special election. In this case, it was definitely in the second, going about approximately a year and a half to go before the election. It would be held. It would be a cost of an election would be borne by Manitowoc County. If it would have been a primary, or if there would have been 3 or more candidates, there would have been a primary. So I guess that's why definitely was the tipping deciding factor to do that. But when I talked with Nancy about her resigning and potentially appointing Amy as thing, I asked for Amy's resume, and I did send it out as well that Sunday night. And I decided to have that executive committee. We are very fortunate to have the ability to appoint Amy in this position. And obviously elections is way away, but I think she'll definitely be a candidate there. So with that, I'll still open up for discussion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on resolution appointing Amy Koshin to fill the unexpired term of the current county treasurer.
Supervisor Wagner. There we go. Resolution passes 23-0. Congratulations, Amy. And I would certainly, yes, if you would certainly like to say a few words, you're certainly welcome to come on up.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be able to serve as the county treasurer. I've enjoyed my time so far in the treasurer's office, and I look forward to many more years serving the public. Thank you again.
Thank you. And thank you for your dedication, because even as an employee, I know it's a job in a sense, it's still a duty and it's an honor. And I appreciate everybody that wants to participate in government. So thank you once again for your service, and don't be afraid to come and talk to us. I mean, you're in charge of your department, but definitely we're there to help as well. So thank you very much once again. That's all I have for executive committee. There's no other questions. All right, moving along. Expo Ice Center Board, Supervisor Gauger is our representative there.
Thank you, Mr.
One of them,
Chairman.
I should say.
The Expo Ice Center Board met March 6th at 7 PM at the Expo office. We'd recommended a bid to the Public Works for grandstand bids. Saturday night at the fair, we will be having bull riding rodeo. The MVET Post 99 will be handling the polka tent this year, so we'll have polkas again. The First of the Fair competition and reception will be held Sunday, March 30th at the UWGB Manitowoc campus in the theater. Everybody's welcome. And our next meeting will be April 3rd at the Expo office, and that concludes my report.
Okay. Any questions for Supervisor Gauger? Did I hear you correct? Bull riding? So now are you gonna look for volunteers from the county board members for that bull ride?
Yeah, there's a lot of bull.
That would be
around.
interesting.
Yeah.
Good point, Supervisor Banky. Very good point. Any other discussion? Thank you very much, Supervisor Gauger. Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Supervisor Niles just signed up for bull riding, so he will be number one. We met 8 days ago on Monday and had an interesting meeting, and we're bringing forth two resolutions for the budget. Didn't sell any property, but had some discussions. And I'm just going to say it's always good to get discussion on budget and concern for debt. We will be borrowing some money tonight. One of the things we have to keep and understand as supervisors is part of this process is if you have a concern about borrowing and that money, that's really more at budget time than now. Projects are started, and if things aren't approved, the question was asked the other night, what happens if you don't approve this bond? Well, then the bridge doesn't get built and everything stops. So the time to get real concerned, and I'm not saying that's good or bad either way, but the time to get real concerned about borrowing money is during that budget time for projects so we can plan. Good news is we got some good news on the bond issue, but we'll get to that after we do the first thing, the resolution authorizing the fund balance designation carryover from 18 to 19. On that resolution, if you look at the second page, there's 3 areas of money that gets carried over into 19. The first 2 are money that you can't touch. That money is designated, has to be spent in areas that it was designated for. The bottom section, not proposing this, I'm just telling you because people have asked about different programs and trying to fund some things. The bottom area is money that we as a board can move around. Okay? But the first two areas are not areas you can touch. The other bottom money gets carried over into 19. Not that it was extra, but that's money that's there that could be used for other purposes rather than what you see on that piece of paper. Just so you keep that in mind, not telling you to spend it. I just want to be open and honest that it's there for that purpose. So I will move that we will adopt resolution to carry over the fund balance from 18 to 19.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Ballman to approve the resolution of carryovers. Any discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing fund balance designations, carryover, transfers, and reappropriation of specified funds from 2018 to 2019.
Resolution passes 23-0.
Thank you for your support on that resolution. And now to the $6.5 million bonding. And we do have Brad from Baird. I'm not going to call him Brad Baird, but Brad from Baird is here if you have any questions. But we did get a pretty nice rate on the money for, again, this is the first part of the borrowing. It will get called after July 4th. Brad and Todd will be watching, we all know markets and things can change, but they're going to watch this pretty close to see when we can get the best rate for the long-term bond. That will probably go up from 2.67, but it's still a pretty good deal. I understand about, and I'm looking at Brad right now, I think in our meeting, he was talking about a 3.3 for the long-term bond. The Zion Bank Corp that you see on your sheet of paper, if you got that, is done other things in Wisconsin, so it's an organization that is known in this area. But I will move that we will pass this resolution authorizing the sale of the bonds. And I'll give that to you, Mr. Chair. I move to do this.
Motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Bruner to approve the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of a $6,505,000 note anticipation note.
So the resolution passes 23-0 and the bridge will continue to be built.
Just on a note from the county board, we'd like to thank Brad for sticking around. I'm sorry we made you sit through some other colorful things that you had to do, but we appreciate you sticking around. But you did such a good job of explaining it at the meeting that things look good. So we'll see you probably around July or August or September.
All right.
I think that's it, Mr. Chair, unless there's questions.
Any questions for Supervisor Hanson? Thank you very much. Highway Committee, Supervisor Benke is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met March 12th, had our meeting. We had County X Bridge bid results. We came within the 5% that we needed to, so the bids were coming in well, good for that project on County Highway X. We also talked about the winter comparables of our snow plowing budget, 18 versus 19. We're generally in about 149,000 minus a couple pay periods in there. So I'm thinking it's probably in the 160, 170 range difference between 18 and 19. Our salt supply is still in good shape. So generally what we look forward to or hope for and cross our fingers for is no snow in December of 19. So if we go another with no white Christmas, that would be good for the highway budget at the end of the year. So Those of you that are white Christmas bound, taboo on you. Uh, We talked about winter equipment hours. With the extreme cold, the 40, 50 below wind chill factor was very hard on our machinery. We had some significant repairs. We are caught back up. Everything is on the road again. But notice that the equipment cost of repair is high when we have 50 below wind chill, 40, 50 below wind chill factor. It's like plowing rock. So it's tough on the equipment. We talked about Memorial Drive. There's a whole plethora of survey changes, and the city of Two Rivers is taking over a lot of land from Manitowoc County. It's a surveyor's nightmare out there, and that is finally getting to a point where the city of Two Rivers will be taking jurisdiction of those little slivers. And if you looked at the survey map, it really was a mess. So working with Mark did a nice job of working with the DOT, working with the city of Two Rivers, working with all the surveyors, and getting that all put together to get that out of our hands, and we don't need to worry about it, and the city of Two Rivers can take care of it. So that's a great thing. April, the summer hours for our highway department will be coming in April, so they'll start their 4 10-hour days, and that will start in. And then we also, Mark said, we will have our training. 1 week a year, we do safety training with all the highway employees. They spend two, three days on just safety training. We do a safety training rodeo with maneuvering. We do training on different pieces of equipment, so making sure that everybody knows how to use. Marcus doing a really nice job of getting that training days in preparation for the real busy summer coming forward. We had a small tool history lesson that Mark gave us some information on, and that was very informative as well. We meet April 9th before the county board meeting if we have enough on our agenda. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Banky? Yes, Supervisor Niles.
Not a question, just a statement. Wanted to give a tip of the hat to the highway department with all the melting last week, especially down in my neck of the woods. I know we had a bunch of culverts that were backed up, and those guys were working all day clearing those culverts up and making sure the flooding that did occur was in good shape. So, tip of the hat. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I wholeheartedly agree, definitely. Any other discussion or questions for Supervisor Banky? Thank you very much. Human Services Board, Supervisor Henriksen is the chair.
I'm going to defer to Supervisor Kavanaugh, please.
Okay, we will go to Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you. The Human Services Board met Thursday, February 28th at the Human Services Building. Our education topic was from one of the deputy directors, Lori Furr. It was on update on the comprehensive community services program for the mental health services. She noted that when she started 4 years ago, there were 2 facilitators, one part-time for adults and one full-time for children. And at that time, there was 18 clients open in the CCS, 7 adults and 11 children. And then comparing to today, she noted that there are 66 open clients, 35 children, and 31 adults. Also, there was a resolution which we'll be addressing later on, was passed to have the addition of authorizing the addition of an opioid specialist case manager using a grant that we had. And that's, as I said, I think that's our last proposal that we'll be dealing with tonight. Patricia Dodge noted this earlier, that April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and they're going to have this program with the Hands Around the Courthouse again held in April, as she mentioned. And our next regular meeting then will be next Thursday, March 28th at 4:45 at the Human Services Building. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee, Natural Resource and Education Committee, Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bry. The Land Conservation Committee has a meeting this week, Thursday, the 21st, at the County Office Complex, starting at 4:45. The Natural Resource and Education Committee has a meeting next month, April 18th, at the County Office Complex, starting also at 4:45. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Supervisor Marsh is the chair.
Our meeting was held on March 5th. A proposal to reclassify the coordinator position of the alternative treatment and diversion program to a supervisory position was passed. The funding sources will be paid for by the program dollars that can be billed. Also, a discussion to hire another AODA case manager, as Supervisor Kavanaugh mentioned, and that will be brought forward later. We had good discussion regarding county board compensation. This compensation is for the next term. We are talking about whether we want to stay with the same, where you get paid for coming to the county board meeting, and if you don't get paid for that. We had some good discussion. We will not be having a meeting in April, but the May meeting is May 7th. We would like to have a discussion about that at that meeting. So I'd appreciate it if you could be at our May 7th meeting so we can start going over this. It doesn't have to be acted upon yet, but we want to get ahead of things, because I think changes need to be made, and we do want everybody's input. If you can't be at the meeting, please email Sharon Cornells with comments before the meeting so that we can bring that up at the meeting and discuss that. That ends my report.
Any, excuse me, any questions for Supervisor Marish? Thank you very much. Planning and Park Commission, Supervisor Dizak is the chair.
We met on February 25th. We first held the public hearings for the 4 zoning requests, and we'll get to those ordinances shortly. We then did discussion on 8 separate variance requests. After discussion and presentation, the commission approved all 8 of them. If anybody has any questions specifically about all the variances, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I have all the information here instead of going over all of them. Next, we had discussion and approval to forward 3 septic system violations to corporate counsel for enforcement. Brings me to the resolutions, which I have a plethora of. Starting with resolution number 4, to continue Manitowoc Snowmobile Trail Program. After 46 years of participation, I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, seconded by Supervisor Zimmer. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing 2019 to 2020 snowmobile trail program.
Resolution passes 23-0.
Next, resolution number 5 is a resolution authorizing the Park Department to apply for the state aid for trail bridge repair, and I move for its approval.
It's a motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Vogel to approve the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing 2019 to 2021 snowmobile trail aids bridge development.
Resolution passes 23-0.
And now for the zoning ordinances, the first one is a zoning request to amend the zoning map for Kenneth and Patricia Larson to rezone approximately 1.58 acres from exclusive ag to rural residential. The area to be considered for rezoning meets the past criteria set by the commission for rezoning land out of exclusive ag. The Liberty Town Board and Town Planning Commission supports the changes, and the proposed area to be rezoned to rural residential will allow the home to be sectioned off from the remaining farmland, and no actual cropland will be affected by the request, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, seconded by Supervisor Holschbach to approve the ordinance. Discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Kenneth and Patricia Larson.
Motion passed 22-0. With one abstention, Supervisor Wagner with an extension, yes.
Next ordinance is to amend the zoning map for Gary and Judith Novitsky to rezone approximately 1 acre from large estate to rural residential. The area to be considered for rezoning meets the past criteria set by the Commission for Rezoning from Large Estate. Mishicot Town Board and Town Planning Commission support the change, and the proposed area to be rezoned to rural residential will allow the home on 1 acre to be separated from the rest of the parcel, and I move for its approval.
Motion by Supervisor Dizak, seconded by Supervisor Holschbach. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Gary and Judith Novitsky.
The ordinance passes 23-0.
And I'm missing my number 8 here. This is the Reister property. I have it here. This is the ordinance to amend the rezoning map for Fay and Reister to rezone approximately 10 acres from a combination of small estate and exclusive ag to general ag. This is basically kind of combining the two areas to make it all a general ag. And the town approves it, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, seconded by Supervisor Banky. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Fay Reister.
Supervisor Way, okay, there we go. Ordinance passes 23-0.
And lastly, I have a ordinance to amend the zoning map for Richard Scheibel to rezone approximately 3.5 acres from exclusive ag to small estate. The area to be considered for rezoning meets the past criteria for exclusive ag. The town of Rockland and the Town Planning Commission support the approval. The proposed area to be rezoned to small estate will allow the current home to be split off from the farm and buildings and the farmland. A minimal amount of cropland will be affected by the request, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Marish. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Richard Scheibel.
Supervisor Zimmer, could you try once again, please? Thank you. Ordinance passes 23-0. Had a busy month, busy meeting.
And lastly, we had a correspondence that was received from the town of Schleswig to review a possible change to reduce the impervious surface regulation for the county around one of the lakes after significant conversation and discussion, we unanimously decided to continue with current ordinances, not ease up on the regulation. That being said, our next meeting will be April 26th, seeing how we had so much here, we didn't really think we needed one in March. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak. Very well earned, yes. Any questions or comments for Supervisor Dizak? Thank you again. Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Hendrickson, you're going to give the report tonight, correct? There we go.
We met March 13th at 6 p.m. Basically, the sheriff came forth and we represented the resolution authorizing the acceptance of a law enforcement enhanced facilitate drug force trafficking investigation grant funds for the sheriff's office. Sheriff Harwick noted that this money will be used to fund the purchase of a vehicle and GPS units. Sheriff went on to also represent the second resolution, which I'll be offering later on after my report here, authorizing the acceptance of a Nanny Matt reentry grant funds. This is the Vibrotol grant, allows inmates to be given a dose prior to release. 14 pilot counties anticipate this will assist in preventing immediate relapse and reoffending upon release. Emergency Division Director Travis Walk gave his report, his first update since July. Basically, a small tornado in Keogh in August, wind event in September that damaged the expo grounds. Worked with weather service and storm did not trigger a warning, but was damaging. Several hazmat events in September. A liquid asphalt on I-43 Metro drug and meth lab cleanups. The first time the student has been involved. Maybe more in the future. No one to build this instance, unlike with Spillers. Assembly of Manitowoc will take this concern to the state to see what can be done. Because as of right now, if you go to a meth lab, you can't build nobody. You can't build if it's a rental, a homeowner, you know, and usually people who you're busting, they don't have any money. So, and then the nuclear plant will be, if funding is up to date, and it will have, what they're going to do is we have a wireless system. Emergency management is active on Facebook. So if anybody wants to look at anything the emergency management is doing, please go on their Facebook page. And I'll bring forth the two resolutions. The first resolution is authorizing the acceptance of the Enhanced Accolade Drug Task Force Trafficking Investigation Grant Funds. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Hendrickson, second by Supervisor Falkowski. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing acceptance of the Enhancement Facilitate Drug Task Force Trafficking Investigations Grant Funds.
There we go. Resolution passes 23-0.
Our next resolution I'm bringing forth is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of Nanny Matt reentry grant. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Hendrickson, second by Supervisor Geimer. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing acceptance of Nanny Matt reentry grant.
Resolution passes 23-0.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Hendrickson? Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Supervisor Giroux is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Public Works meeting was called to order at 4:30 on March 13th. We reviewed the minutes, the donation reports, the ethics code reports. There was no public comment. We discussed the solid waste and recycling division, capital equipment purchases. We discussed the solid waste and recycling agreements that you heard in the presentation this evening. And we discussed and moved to pass a resolution that I will have at the end of my report dissolving the Solid Waste Management Advisory Committee. And also discuss the proclamation of the many years of service of Harvey Jeanette and Donna Kickbush on that committee. We approved the bid of $93,035 for a new HVAC unit on the top of the law enforcement center to Shouse. We discussed the ash tree removal projects that we will undertake in the coming years to have a forester harvest the ash trees while they still have some value due to the emerald ash borer. And it was discussed that even though we hated the bitter cold, it slowed up the emerald ash borers a few years, so that was a good thing. We approved the request to install an educational garden at UW Manitowoc office complex to use in their agronomy programs. We approved the Hands Around the Courthouse and permit from the Sheriff's Department request for Easter egg hunt inside the courthouse. There was no report or nothing new on the Hecker V-Bond property sale or situation at this time. We discussed the communication division, currently in step 2 of changing copper prime trunk lines to internet trunk lines, which will provide greater internet and telephone bandwidth at less cost than the existing trunks. This project should be concluded by the 4th quarter of this year. The IP conversion from T1 equipment has been delivered and scheduled to begin in the spring, and the Motorola public safety radio upgrade to begin later in the year. Our IS manager, Cody Berg, gave his report, the My Avatar project, which was signed in 2015. And since IS was merged with the Public Works Department, it was discovered that the project needed to start over as the My Avatar project was nowhere near completion, and what was done to date was configured incorrectly. The project is now scheduled to be completed by the end of the year and is currently at 30% completion. Janelle Shelton gave her Expo Air Ice Center division report. We accepted another bid for an HVAC unit on the Ice Center rooftop. Again, the job was given to Shouse Roofing Mechanical for $41,770. We also discussed and approved the purchase of Expo bleachers to GT grandstands in the amount of $132,222, which will add 1,200 permanent seats and includes also 4 portable bleachers. And this will keep us from having to rent bleachers every year, which is a very good thing. We just approved the fairest of the fair proclamation and discussed the Comptroller's Expo Special Revenue Fund report. And at this time, I would move for the adoption of the resolution dissolving the Solid Waste Management System Advisory Committee. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Giroux, seconded by Supervisor Dizak. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution dissolving the Solid Waste Management System Advisory Committee.
Resolution passes. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Ballman, did you have a comment? Okay. So resolution passes 23-0. Anything else, Supervisor Giroux?
No, that concludes my report, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Supervisor Ballman?
Yeah, Supervisor Droll, why is the Avatar program taking so long? This has been going on for 2 years, I believe, or is it longer? 3?
Jerry, do you want to enlighten us on?
Supervisor Ballman, could you repeat your question? I mean, I think I heard it, but I just make sure
Right.
everybody heard it.
I'm wondering why this Avatar project has been going. I know we had a resignation, but it just seems like it's 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's not getting done.
Well, that's true. A lot of work was done over that time. What we found when we delved into it is the former systems administrator had incomplete configuration of the data in the database. And because of that, and the way things were supposed to correlate, that there was no salvaging what was there. Basically, it would have taken more work to fix it than it would have just to start over. So while it was regrettable that the Human Services Department spent so much time and did so much work, you know, their staff people working on it, it wasn't salvageable what was there. So starting at the beginning of this year, we started over, and in 25% of the year, we're already 30% done with the project. So we're making, I think, great strides, and we will be done by the end of this year and implemented.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry and Supervisor Bauman. That's it for, I know, I was going to ask if you had related to this. Okay. Supervisor Banky.
Yes, do we have an estimated cost of starting over? Of what we had sticking in, what we threw away, and what that mistake is gonna cost us?
It's hard to quantify a cost on that because the work that was done to date was done to date. And the system was bought, contract signed in 2015. With the new team in place and the new talent working on it, that's staff labor we would have had anyway at the same time. The company who supplied the product, NetSmart, isn't charging us anymore. They were willing to work with us with some negotiation, but not on a financial end, as far as what they were going to support going forward, because they knew since then we hadn't implemented many of these modules. And it was part of our original contract to implement them. So our new IS manager and our new systems administrator have diligently been working daily.
But basically, the time that was spent with the previous administrator on the implementation was all wasted.
Well, to a point, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Banky.
Well, and again, it was the staff at Human Services, you know, has been working on it for years, and I don't think we should discount what they did and the information they provided, with full confidence that things were going to be correct at the end. And again, it was time to reset and move forward, and now we're on a clear path.
Okay. Supervisor Williams, question or comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask, Jerry, has there been a clear communication with human service staff with all the bugs and bugaboos and problems that have been going on constantly?
Absolutely. We meet once a week. We have a team in place, and we've been doing that since the end of beginning of this year, let's just say. We meet every Wednesday. We have a full-time systems administrator who is basically on their staff full-time. We have constant updates. We have weekly meetings with the NetSmart, which is the people who produce the software. And again, I feel we're making great strides now. We see progress every single week, and we gauge it every single week.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Williams. Any other questions on this, I guess, for Jerry at this time? Thank you very much, Jerry, for the report. We appreciate it very much. All right, anything else for Supervisor Giroux on our Public Works? Thank you very much. Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Bauman is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met February 21st, and we had 2 resignations. Jim Munsenmeyer from Madison Metro took a new job up in Minnesota, and Melissa Lyons also resigned. We're looking for 2 new people to serve on that committee if anybody's interested. We reviewed the third and fourth quarter reports for ridership, and the fourth quarter was up slightly as a result of marketing efforts by Olivia Delikowski, who was hired as a full-time employee January 1st. And she is a full-time employee that is being paid by grants. So she will continue to do marketing on the transportation and assist in marketing of the other ADRC programs. Our vehicle should be here, our new van, in April. It's a rear entry van for wheelchairs, but it also has passenger seating. We also elected Vice Chairman Dyzik to our committee. So Linda Greider gave an update on the Mobility Management Maritime Metro Transit Program, and she is going through her recertification this year. There's a Hmong meal site program started every Tuesday in January at the Manitowoc County Office Complex. And I asked, well, we're doing something for the Hmongs, and we're actually using Hmong recipes for it, and it's getting a pretty nice little reception. I asked about doing something for Hispanics, and I was informed no Hispanics are showing up at ADRC because they are scared to death. And I think that's a crying shame. So that's the end of my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Baumann? Thank you very much. Under miscellaneous, we have a joint resolution from Human Services Board and Personnel Committee authorizing the addition of 1.0 full-time equivalent of human service employee at the AODA case manager. I don't know if Supervisor Marsh would like to address that first, or Supervisor Henderson, or just something like.
I will do that.
Okay.
The Human Services Department has received that grant, and so this will pay for the hiring of a AODA case manager, so I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Marsh, second by Supervisor Henderson to approve the employee. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, Supervisor Vogel.
Supervisor Marsh, wasn't this a position that was held sometime in the past? Do you know?
That
AODA manager position?
case manager?
Yes.
Patricia?
Patricia, if you want to come up, Patricia, that'd be great.
This is I'm sorry, this is case manager position, so it's not a supervisory level. And this is a new position, not on our roster before, in response to a state opioid response grant that we've received. So part of the grant is going to be used for a position, part will be used for Vivitrol injections as needed, and the rest is for inpatient services when people are ready to get those kinds of services. We have struggled to find places for them. So now we have some funding to do that, but it is a new one.
Thank you very much, Patricia.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Supervisor Vogel?
Yes, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing addition of one full-time equivalent human services employee, AODA case manager.
Resolution passes 23-0. Thank you very much on that. Just quickly under announcements, just remember April next Tuesday, or not next Tuesday, but Tuesday, April 2nd, we have an election here in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin Supreme Court race is going on, along with numerous municipal elections here at the local level, obviously. So voting's from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. And if you ever get the chance, and if you stay out of their way, come to the county clerk's office and see a great team in action. It's always impressive. I use the county clerk's office, but I also city clerk's offices as well. It's impressive how they can do this in a short amount, reasonable amount of time. And just one other thing from my standpoint, remember, and Supervisor Benke alluded to it a little bit before with the highway committee meeting, our next county board meeting will be a week earlier on April 9th because of the annual town meetings scheduled for the following week. So just remember that'll be Tuesday, April 9th at 6:30 PM. With that, Supervisor Hendrickson, you had something quick?
I want to thank all the supervisors and the citizens of Manitowoc County who expressed their sympathy on the passing of my mother. My family and I deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Williams, you had something.
Just wanted to ask if, for those of us attending the Final Four in Minneapolis, would we be excused from the April 9th?
Only if Wisconsin's in the Final Four or Marquette. Of course you will be excused, Supervisor Williams.
Thank you.
With that, anything else? Supervisor Gallagher, motion to adjourn okay, please.
Our new deputy clerk needs a raise. I
Okay.
can't see your eyeballs.
That was good. Thank you, Supervisor. Motion by Supervisor Dysek, second by Supervisor Niles to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a safe trip home.